everybody. No, that's how that works. My name is McBride. I'm not actually a rock star, just kind of introduced that way. I'm actually much better on the ocean and behind the helm or on a boat than I am up here speaking, so bear with me if I need to catch my breath from time to time. So, anyway, I am the captain of the vessel O-Search. I have been working with O-Search since the beginning. Actually, I've been working for Chris Fisher, the founder of O-Search, for almost 20 years now. Let me see what we got here. I grew up in San Diego, California, and I started fishing at a really young age. San Diego, California has got a really big sport fleet down there, and I was fortunate enough to start working at a really young age. I actually started fishing on these boats here. You see them in the background. They were open party sport fishing boats. We'll take as many as 70 people out a day, and then do some long range stuff with less people. But I started fishing on those boats when I was about 5. And I just fell in love with it the very first time out, and I got really lucky back then to meet a captain and a crew that basically raised me when I wasn't at home. So my mom used to let me go all weekend long. She'd drop me off on Friday night and pick me up on Sunday, even as first, second, third grader. She trusted them so much. So I had a very unique experience of being raised by some of the top fishermen in the industry down there, and I just fell in love with it right away. I started working at 11 years old, and I worked my way through junior high school and high school on that same sport fleet. When I got out of high school, I moved to Mexico pretty shortly thereafter. I lived in Cabo San Lucas for about 21 years, where I was fishing A to Z, anything, tuna, marlin, wahoo, all the tournaments, everything. I did a lot of spearfishing. And then during that time, I met Chris Fisher. Now, I actually got a phone call from a friend of mine who was running his boat at the time and asked me if I wanted to come over and work for the guy that he was working for, because he was quitting. So that's when I met Chris, and we hit it off right away. He was already retired. He was a year younger than me, so we were just full of energy and had the same kind of outlook on life, and we just liked to fish. And shortly thereafter, we decided to come up with an outdoor television show called Offshore Adventures. Now, Offshore Adventures was you can see us here, this is done on the Go Fish. It was done on a 72-foot Elliott. And we were fishing for all the stuff that we do down there, the marlin, the tuna, the swordfish, and everything else. And then we were filming it, and we had a culinary part of the show, and we had a travel part of the show. So it became a very popular show on the outdoor block for the whole family. During that time, we got we got the attention of some scientists. They asked us if we could start doing some tagging of billfish for them. So we started tagging billfish and doing a few other scientific projects. And I think me and Chris both felt the same way. We had caught so many fish and done so much of the same stuff. It was really nice to start working with scientists and doing something a little bigger than just going out and catching the fish and having fun, something that we can give back. So we started doing that. We did that for 14 seasons on ESPN, and we tagged a bunch of billfish and all that during that time. Toward the end of that, one of the scientists that we'd worked with, he asked us if we could go ahead and try to tag a mature white shark. The show had kind of come to its natural end, and so we decided that, well, we'll try to tag a white shark, but we need to monetize it somehow. There's an expensive boat to run, expensive science, expensive everything. So we started making did what we knew how to do, which was make television, and we knew we could monetize it through television. So from there we started Sharkman. I've seen a couple people with Sharkman shirts on around here. That was our National Geographic debut, working with white sharks. And we were mostly fishing out of Guadalupe Island, Mexico. We tagged 22 sharks in that region. And we did that. We filmed Sharkman for a few years. After that, we moved over to Shark Wranglers. But the one thing that we started noticing, or started learning, as a fisherman, I've seen sharks my entire life. I just didn't know how important they were. They were usually, sometimes they would be something that you would target from time to time. But most of the time it was just something that ate your fish off of your line or something you saw swim by. It was neat, but it could be a hassle if you lose a fish to it. But I didn't realize how important they were until I started working with the scientists. And having some of these conversations on the boat was really eye-opening. It's like, what is so important about the sharks that you're so worried about them? And then we started learning about how they are the top-tier predator, and without them, the second-tier predators explode and their populations explode, and they eat more than of the rest of the stuff than they should. So a simple way of looking at that is if there's like in the Sea of Cortez, where the populations of sharks have been decimated by the fishermen, the squid populations rose to the point where they're unnatural. Everywhere you go, you can drop an iron in the middle of the daytime and hook a Humboldt squid, which is not normal. Well, we learned from doing some of our previous stuff with the scientists that those, every night the fry would come up, and we would do some dragging of these fine mesh nets through the water columns, and we would see that we were catching baby swordfish and marlin and tuna and yellowtail and all this other stuff in the fry stage. Well, every night when the squid are coming up, they're eating those. So you start having an unnatural effect, secondary effect. You think, well, why is all the tuna fishery or the marlin fishery, everything suffering? Well, it's because the sharks were removed from the equation, the squid rose too much, and they're doing the damage to the other one. So it started really making sense. Oh God, if I really love the ocean the way I do, I need to really respect sharks for their role that they play in the environment. Whether you love them or not, you got to respect them for their role. And that's where a lot of people have a hard time with that. They have a bad reputation. They need a better brand manager, like Chris likes to say. It's easy to demonize them and call them monsters. They look ferocious, but I got to tell you, after tagging hundreds of them, I couldn't imagine tagging anything more docile. I mean, if I tried to tag hundreds of dogs, I would have scars all over me. I would have been bitten 1,000 times. I've never been bitten. They're really cooperative. It's amazing how scary they look, but how important they are, and actually how docile of a creature they really are until they're actually feeding whenever everything needs to eat. So this is the reality that we all need to keep in check. I know this is probably a common theme. You probably hear it from almost everybody that comes up on stage. Sharks are being culled. They're being harvested at a ridiculous rate. Some of the numbers I hear are upwards of possible 100 million sharks a year being killed for their fins. Very few of these boats that are harvesting sharks are keeping the whole shark. It doesn't make sense for them. You don't need refrigeration to keep the fins. You can just throw them on the deck of a panga. The panga can go out, a 22-foot panga can go out and catch 100 sharks, chop off their fins, throw them on the deck without any ice, and stay out longer than it normally would. If it kept the whole shark, it would destabilize its vessel after catching about 10, and they would need ice. And so it would change the whole dynamics of how many sharks they could catch. So that's what really changed things. You can have a whole fleet of 22-foot boats out there doing a lot of damage, and these guys know how to catch. So the whole reason they're doing it is because of the shark fin soup. I'm sure you guys have heard it over and over before, but it's the absolute truth. It's got to go. It's the one thing that doesn't pass the common sense test. How can you take the most important creature out of the ecosystem for a bowl of soup that doesn't even have any flavor until you put some fish stock or something in it? It was mostly done for prestige. It's a status kind of thing. Doesn't make any sense. And that's what this boat is trying to accomplish, trying to learn what we can, learn their migratory patterns, learn everything we can, and reach out to the public. A big part of what we do is informing the public of what we learn. It's not enough for us to go have scientists on the boat and learn something and then spend a few years writing a thesis and then have a thesis, and that's it. Nobody reads it. Even the lawmakers, they look at it, you put it on their desk, it's too much for them to read, too much to comprehend. Where you can take what we're doing and get the public involved, open source it to everybody, and everybody can learn at the same time and develop the same respect that they need to. So this is the boat that we use. This is the one that I run. It's actually designed, it was originally a Bering Sea crabber. It was similar to one of the ones you see on Deadliest Catch. In fact, I think it was on season 1. where they bought it back on a buyback program and turned it into a mothership for a sport fishing operation, which is what we were doing at the time. That's how we acquired it in the first place. This platform right here actually rises, goes outside of the starboard side of the boat, and then lowers underwater about 8 or 9 feet. We would drive a sport fisher on top of it, pick it up, put it on deck, and drive to the other side of the planet and go sport fishing. That was what it was designed for. Now when we bought it, we started working with the sharks shortly thereafter, and I was like, well, this is what if we're going to catch a mature white shark in the neighborhood of 4,000 pounds and tag it and have to do blood work and do all this stuff, we need to have a specialized vessel. Doing it over the side of the boat is a possible thing. You can do it, you can get a tag on it. The sharks fight the whole time. They're still stressed out. They're beating their head against the side of the boat the entire time. It's a lot more stressful than having them out of the water for a short period of time. Also, you can get so many more studies. We can do blood work, we can do internal tags. We have as many as like 12 to 15 studies being conducted in a 15-minute period because we're able to lift them out of the water and provide access to all the scientists at the same time. The boat is actually, it holds 52,000 gallons of diesel, 7,000 gasoline, 7,000 water. We can travel a long ways, fully self-sufficient, and it is built to go through weather. So it's an awesome machine, and here's a little bit of what we're doing. Oop, it didn't. It's supposed to play. Do you know what? This is the actual video. That when I put next, it's supposed to go into a video.
Now he's coming in. Stop, you guys. Go, let go. Slack, slack. Up, up.
When that lift goes into water, we're exposed.
Roll him over if you can.
How's this going to end? I have no idea.
Works moving. Everybody up.
What we can do is help the smartest people in the world catch things they have no chance of getting without us.
So you can see that's a pretty big shark right there. And in Guadalupe Island, you got that clear water. It's an amazing place to get started on this thing. And getting started catching, we didn't start off with the small ones. We didn't start off in Malibu or someplace getting juveniles and then move to South Africa and get some medium-sized ones. We started off with the biggest of the big ones in the deepest of the water, and it was a challenge. There was a lot to figure out. We knew we had the boat. We needed to get them over the top of that platform, but we knew we couldn't use a rod and reel to fight a 4,000-plus pound shark. We'd be fighting it for 10 hours and exhaust it. We also knew we had to have complete control over it. We needed to make sure the hook went into the corner of the mouth and not down deep. We had all these things we were thinking of. How do we get the shark up on top of that platform and stop him from diving under at the last minute? We knew we needed to get a buoy near their face, maybe 4 buoys near their face to stop them from going down. We knew we needed to get them to figure out how to not go outside of that platform. So there was quite a bit to learn. And in that deep water, it's very different than fighting a shark in the shallow water. This over here, they would go, you'd hook a shark and he's got 100 fathoms of water under him. He can just go down. There's nothing you can do to stop him on a hand line. You have to put buoys on him. So that would be the hardest environment that we've ever had to catch sharks in, the biggest, deepest water. And it was great because once we figured that out, everything after that was easy. You go to South Africa or Cape Cod, some of these other places, they have shallow water. I'm mostly fishing the sharks in 60 feet of water or less, a lot of times 20 or less. Now you can imagine a 15-foot shark in 20 feet of water, he can barely even go that way. I mean, his head to tail, he's almost to the water depth. So he can't dive down, so we know that we don't need to put extra buoys on him. All we do is get out in front of him real quick, put some pressure on him. He might be able to take off on the surface again, but if he does, we just get out in front of him again with the boat, put some pressure on them, and then they learn real quick. It's called a learned helplessness that they go through, and it happens really fast. A 3,000-pound shark, I can actually have it in control in 5 minutes. A lot of people think, oh, it must be hours and hours battle, and it would be on a rod and reel in deep water. It would be You'd fight it, probably lose it after 10 hours. That doesn't happen here. We actually control them from the very get-go, and it's all because of the depth of water and the tackle that we're using. We don't use rods and reels. It's a rope, cable, buoys, and mostly just some boat handling and some line handling. This, I think, is Amy. This is the type of tag you can see right up here at the top. This is the spot tag. Now that's the technology that's given us the most data as fast as we can get it. In the past, Lansing tags, you know, the pat tags where you poke them in, that was the method that was used, and which is great. It taught us some stuff, but a lot of those tags, they just don't last that long. They fall off, they get eaten off, they shed them after usually just a few months, so you don't really get the whole life cycle that we're looking for. We need something that's going to give at least 2 years of data, because they have an 18-month gestation cycle. So you have to, if you're going to go to what you think is a mating site, and you're going to tag a shark that may be pregnant or be getting pregnant, then 18 months later, it's going to start showing you where it's going to go to give birth, which is the most important thing we're trying to find out. Where are they giving birth? Where are these nurseries? That's when they're the most vulnerable. That's when commercial gear set up in the nurseries can have devastating effect on their population. So I'm a fisherman, grown up commercial fishing and sport fishing since I was a kid, and a lot of my friends are fishermen, as you can imagine. I don't like the idea of governments blanketing the whole ocean with laws that you can't enforce anyways. I like the idea of, let's learn as much as we can about these things, find exactly where we need to protect them, and protect that little area. Even protect an area for a certain time, possibly. But instead of just saying the whole ocean is off limits to doing something, there's no way to enforce that. You're acting like you're doing something, but you're not. But the new technology, we're able to know exactly where they need to be protected. This is a good example of that. This is an area called the SOFA, Shared Offshore Foraging Area. And this is where the sharks go to gestate. After they left Guadalupe Island, Guadalupe Island's here, Farallon Islands are here. Those seem to be the mating sites for the big mature sharks. So after they do their thing at the island, the females are going out here and they're spending 18 months offshore in an area that we went and looked at, and there's really nothing out there. I mean, I didn't see tuna, I didn't see marlin, I didn't see mammals, except for I did finally find sperm whales. And sperm whales are squid eaters. Everywhere else I stopped at night, squid come to the boat. It didn't seem like there was anything else except for white sharks, sperm whales, and squid, from what I saw, which kind of fit into their diving profiles. The sharks are spending a lot of time down at the same level that the sperm whales are hunting at. So you start putting two and two together. You can't say for sure, but it sure looks like sharks are out there staying away from all the other predators while they're pregnant, and eating all the squid that there is out there to eat, and possibly taking advantage of some of the sperm whales and eating either their babies or whatever they're able to do, dead ones with the sperm whales. So that was a real interesting trip for us. We were at some points 1,500 miles from the closest point of land, so that's where that big ship comes into play. You're all out there on your own.
It's Amy who now shows the way. While their other white sharks eventually leave SOFA to head back towards the mating sites, Amy takes a radical detour straight into the Sea of Cortez. And her timing suggests she's ready to give birth.
So I wasn't sure if it was still playing. That is exactly what I was talking about right there. So you tag a shark at Guadalupe, she goes out to the SOFA, she spends 18 months gestating, and then boom, she makes a straight line. For where? We didn't know that. We thought she'd probably go straight to the coast, or maybe up toward Malibu, Southern California. Well, she went down below Cabo San Lucas, like she knew exactly where it was, which is another study completely. How do they navigate so perfectly underwater? And we have such a hard time doing it on top of the water. But she went straight up into the Sea of Cortez and up to the north. And I spent a lot of time in the Sea of Cortez throughout my life, and I have a lot of friends down there. And they started, confirming what we were seeing there. It's like, yeah, they do see some big sharks from time to time. And we went up and looked up in some of the shark dumps where they dump the carcasses and stuff. And we actually found some skeletal remains of, the teeth and stuff from juvenile white sharks. So it all comes together, it starts making sense, you start seeing the big picture. That's what we're doing this all for. We're trying to do it everywhere. I think this was a perfect case study of us being able to go anywhere else and actually learn and prove it. So the Pacific study was very, very successful. This is what I was speaking about earlier, SharkMen. That's how we started funding this whole program was through television. But being on TV, it was fun when we were doing offshore adventures, kinda. But doing it for this, it didn't make any sense to us really. I mean, we needed the money in order to fund everything and do the science, and it worked. But you can't reach out to the public like you can without them on the boat, because the Nat Geo or History, whoever's funding it, they own the content. That means you can't have news crews and newspaper and magazine crews on the boat spreading the word globally. So we were able to reach, I don't know, probably 100 times as many people without being on TV as we can now, just because of that, because we're able to get people, the news crews on the boat in real time. There's also the science and drama. They're kind of like oil and water. So doing it was like, this doesn't really feel right. But it got us to where we are right now, and it was really important. I know a lot of people ask when we're going to come back out with another show. I don't see it happening, because I think we would lose a lot of the people that could actually see what we're doing on a daily basis. This was the History Channel show, Shark Wranglers. Even more drama associated with this one. I haven't actually watched it, so I don't know, but I was told. And here's a little introduction to what we were doing down in South Africa, which was a great study. We tagged 40 white sharks in South Africa, and it really proved our methods work so well.
On the other side of the world, in some of the most treacherous waters on Earth, here we go, hold on. A team of American fishermen are stalking the planet's most notorious killer, the great white shark. Their mission?
Watch out, Brett!
Hand catch, GPS tag and track a record number of great whites.
Clear now!
To decode the mystery of the predators' hunting and breeding grounds and how close they swim to shore. Risking it all, these brave fishermen get closer to the sharks than anyone else dares.
Go in, Brett! You're going in!
Leaping from our world into theirs.
Out of the water! Pick it up! Big swell, Brett, coming, big swell!
They battle face to face to save man from shark.
Here goes the sail!
And shark from man.
Pull it up, pull it up, pull it up!
There's that drama. It was actually, something that I look back on fondly, a lot of pride. I say being on TV and all the drama is not that great, but what we did there, I'm very proud of our whole team. The collaboration of having that many scientists, the top guys and girls in the world in their field on our ship. Who's not going to like that? Every conversation you have after a day of fishing, you sit down and relax and have a conversation that everybody's learning. The scientists are learning from us because we're on the boat 200 to 300 days a year and have been for 30 years. It's their dream to have that kind of experiences themselves. Sometimes you'll be with a scientist and it's like he's been studying this forever. He's the top or she's the top in their field. And you say, well, how often do you get out? And it's like, well, I got out for a week 2 years ago. And then it's like, wow. It's just so hard for them to get the funding and everything to get out there. So when you have these moments on deck where they're teaching me all about what they know from their side of it, and I can give them my input from what I've seen from my side of it, and then you put a bigger picture together. So scientists working together with fishermen turned out to be a great collaboration. And I think that it didn't used to be easy for scientists and fishermen to work together. There's a little trust factor there. But the more we did it and the more scientists that we met around the world, it just became an awesome thing. And we were able to learn at such a faster pace. And not just because of the new technology, but also because of the collaboration. And then, being able to take it from there. If I was to go and tell a fish story to somebody who's a lawmaker, and say, look, here's what I've seen. I think that it would be helpful to the population if you made this law change. He can't do that, or she can't do that. They would have to have some kind of solid evidence, and that doesn't come from a captain's or a fisherman's mouth. It comes from a scientific paper written, which comes from somebody with a PhD, which is where this all comes into play. We're able to go do what we know how to do. They're the ones who write the paper, their study. Once you get that written, then they can look at the global tracker. It's easy from there to talk somebody into making a common sense law change that needs to be made. Here's a list of, and this is an old list, but we've worked with the top mines throughout the world with sharks. You can see from Africa to Australia to United States, Mexico, you name it. So this is a quote from Alex Hearn. He says that we've accomplished more in 2 weeks than what it takes. Other science takes about 3 years, and so I think that's a really great testament to the method and our collaboration. As far as policy goes, this is a real easy way when you're talking to a lawmaker for them to see. They don't have to read a really dry, boring thesis and try to interpret what they really mean. You look at this and go, okay, well, here we got tracks. We need to protect. Sharks don't pay attention to false boundaries. They don't know that they're swimming from one country's waters into another, and that now that they're not protected anymore. So if one country has laws in place that protect them, and the country right next to them does not, when they swim across that border and they start running into commercial fishing gear, that's what happens. So you have to take it to a global thing. You have to be able to have each country in that region be able to look at the same data and all work together to make it a policy.
Mine just said that 3 more great whites were caught in Tofu near Mozambique, straight from the beach, a long line.
Marine biologist Alison Koch tells Chris about recent illegal shark finning off of Mozambique.
These fish are globetrotters, man. They move thousands and thousands of miles.
Because it's more than likely the same animals.
Right?
Both believe the same sharks that bring in millions of tourist dollars every year to South Africa are traveling up to the waters of Mozambique.
If we can show connectivity between South Africa and Mozambique, which we already suspect, then we can help trying to push for protection there as well.
Yeah, so we had some of our early evidence that this was important. We had sharks that go up to Mozambique, and right away, boom, they got killed. And it's such a bummer for us. You spend all that time and effort and money to get down to South Africa, do a big project, and before you even leave, one of them's already gotten killed by some commercial fishermen just across the line. So that's a perfect example of that. They don't know our boundaries, and this is just one example. I mean, everywhere is like that. You can see some of the simple tracks off of there. You got these coastal sharks. That seems like it was mostly the males, and then you got some of the offshore tracks. This is that image that you can, like I was talking about the policy before. You look at that image, and it doesn't take long to figure it out. So the global shark tracker, for people who aren't familiar with it, we have. It's free to the public. We have an app on your smartphones that is free, and anybody, anywhere, anytime can track our sharks. That means the students. We have kids that are 5 years old that are asking questions to the scientists that the scientists haven't even really given it much thought yet. So it's awesome when people are able to say, oh, I might be able to figure a new study out while I'm in my classroom, or a little, and do something that they're not even focusing on. So the free nature of it is the cool part.
The first time on a white shark in the North Atlantic, we've been able to put a real-time satellite tag on one of these fish, and in this case it's Jeannie. What happens with this tag is anytime she comes to the surface, it transmits a ping to a satellite which picks it up, relays it back to us, and we can actually track her movements on the shark tracker. So Jeannie, when we tagged her right up here off of Monomoy, moved almost 40 miles south to this area we call Nantucket Shoals, which is just east of Nantucket Island. I didn't know white sharks spent any time on Nantucket Shoals, and here she is, boom, right there. That's the beauty of the new technology.
Yeah, so apparently I'm already running out of time. I wanted to give you guys some time for questions and answers, so I guess I'll do that now. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Well, I got one.
During Shark Week, they were saying that they were doing the clip-on tags, and I know that they were following up. But the claim that they were making was that when you pull the shark out of the water and tag them, it traumatizes them, and they leave the area that they normally would stay in. Is that something that you guys have found to be true?
I do not believe that. I know that that's said, and I know that there's certain people that don't like the idea that are pulled out of the water. They think it looks bad. My experience is that when I do the work, I tag sharks along the side of the boat when we have rough weather, when it's too rough to use the lift. When I use the lift, everything goes much smoother. There's much less stress on the shark. I do understand, and we've had the same concerns. I've thought of them all myself. I lose a lot of sleep over whether I'm not going to do this and have a shark go out and die. It wouldn't make any sense. I don't want to stress them out either. And it's, in my opinion, and I've been doing them both boat side and on the lift, that the lift is much more kind to the animal. They stop fighting. They realize that their fighting is not doing them any more good. When they first come on the lift, first thing I do is cover their eyes with a big, dark, wet towel. I get the hoses in their mouth and get their gills oxygenated, and it calms them right down. We take blood work. The very first thing we do is take blood work, and the very last thing we do before we release them is take another blood work sample. So we compare the stress markers from when they come on the lift to when they leave the lift. And I was imagining that they look more healthy when they're leaving than they do when they're coming on. And the blood work actually proves that to be true. They're recovering on the lift. Now, whether or not the weight of a really large one could be damaging to his organs or something like that was a concern in the beginning, and it still is. If I was to get a really big shark, I wouldn't want to put a gravid female on the deck. I would want to keep her submerged. I could still do that on the deck, and sometimes we'll have the deck, if it's really flat water, I can keep it up to knee level and control the shark that way. But the proof is in the tracker. We've had the biggest sharks we've tagged, 4,000 plus pounds, swimming around just fine, giving lots of data. So that is speculation. It's been proven not to be true, in my opinion. I wouldn't do it if it's a lot of money to spend and time and effort if the shark that you just tagged swims off and dies. And we don't want that. We don't want them to be stressed out either. I'm not an animal torturer. But I think that the greater good is being accomplished here. And if I thought doing it boat side was the best way to do it, I would press for doing it boat side. But in my experience, the sharks that I do alongside of the boat never stop fighting. They're slamming their head into the side of the boat and thus their eyeball. Part of the time you lose control over them, part of the time. The fact that they're still fighting means their stress levels are up. They haven't given up yet. So I would say that to the people that that feel that way or believe that, if they were to come out with us, it wouldn't take them long to go, you know what, it was a concern, but it's no longer a concern.
Do you hook them before you get them on the lift?
Yeah, in order to get them on the lift, I am not whispering them up there. I know that we don't show that very much anymore because some of the very vocal minority, they're like, oh, that looks so bad, you're a fisherman, and fishing has to take place in order to get them on the lift. Now, yeah, and like I was saying earlier, in the shallow water, they don't fight. It's actually, they try to run, and I get out in front of them. They try to run, I get out in front of them again. They haven't actually fought. I don't put any drag on them. I just get in front of them. The shark can't put on the brakes. If the line comes directly off his nose and you're in front of him, he would have to turn in order to fight you again. So he's following you. He tries to turn, and then we'll run out in front of him again. 1 or 2 times is all it takes, and then they get the learned helplessness and they give up. Now what happens is interesting after that, about 5 minutes of leading them back to the boat, because once I get in front of them, now I steer them the way I want them to go, back to the mothership. So I can bring them to the boat to lift them out of the water. After about 5 minutes, I can feed them about 15 feet of line, and they're actually towing a belly, following the bubbles of this contender, and they're not being pulled at all. They're just following us. So every now and then they'll start getting out of line. I'll pull them back in, and then I feed them line again, and they're just following. They're not getting towed. So they actually are fully recovered at that point. They haven't even fought in the first place. Plus they're on their own power until they get close to the ship. Then we put the buoys on them. Then they do a little bit of a fight, but it only lasts for a couple minutes before we lift them. So
You're walking with a boat, not the bottom.
excuse me?
You're walking with a boat, not the bottom. Not the bottom. You said you get in front of them and you would run.
With the boat, yeah. We get the boat in front of them, so yeah.
I'll get there. I've seen them come in and with their hands.
Yeah, no. We're not doing this to be cowboys or do any, it's not really a fun thing. When I'm doing this, it is actually a lot of stress, a lot of weight on my shoulders, because if one shark dies, if one white shark dies, we're fully transparent. The whole world will know. And we're gonna have problems continuing doing what we do if I had that happen. So I'm not enjoying catching the shark. Believe me, when it's there, until that shark swims off, I'm just focused and stressed. Is this gonna go? I don't want anything to go wrong. Anything to go wrong. When it swims off, then I have a feeling of relief. I'm not gonna say it's high five and woo. It's just relief. Glad everything went good. And it has to go good. It has to go perfect every time.
Guys, let's have a great round of applause for Brett McBride from O-Search. He's not going anywhere, don't worry. You can see him right over here to your left if you're facing the stage for autographs, more questions, and everything else. Again, Brett McBride from O-Search. In about 20 minutes we'll have, I'm sorry, I lost the name, Steve Alton speaking in about 20 minutes up in here at the stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you.